Great. Well, welcome everybody. Uh, my name is Josh Doing, and I am the Startup Success Manager at University of Maryland's Ventures. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us today for Your Entrepreneurial Journey Starts Here, the role of mentors in your success. This workshop is part of our ongoing Startup Fundamentals Workshop series, which is a series of workshops offered by Ventures with collaboration from the Maryland Technology Enterprise Institute and the Dingman-Lamone Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of Maryland, with the purpose of educating and sharing information about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial experiences with the UMD staff, faculty, and student body, as well as with a wider audience who chooses to come and participate. To everyone here in the live session today, as you just heard, we are being recorded. This will be posted to our YouTube channel afterwards, and so you'll be able to review that. But we will also take live questions, and so please feel free to throw your questions into the chat. One thing to note, in the Zoom chat, the default is to send the questions just to host and panelists, and that's fine, we can see it. But if you do want everyone to be able to see your question, just toggle that to everyone. While I'm doing introductions here, I'm going to put a question in the chat for everybody. And if you want to share, why are you here at this workshop today? And what is your role? And that just helps me to know why you're coming, what you're hoping to get, how to tailor this to you. But let me quickly kind of talk about why we do these workshops, why Ventures exists, and then I'll introduce our panelists. But Ventures exists for innovators in either sciences or the humanities who are passionate about their research and would like low-risk opportunity to transform it into a product or service to benefit the public. We are what is called Maryland's Tech Transfer Office. Most universities have a tech transfer office, and our purpose is to get the innovation that takes place on campus out into society. Researchers are doing this through publications, and we do it through a process of turning that innovation into products or services that can benefit the greater society. We are designed specifically to serve graduate students and faculty, but like I said, we work with the Dingman-Lamone Center and other centers on campus that also serve undergraduate students. There's just different pathways for each of these groups to kind of turn an innovation into something that is a product or service, and we work together to help people do that. We have designed what we call the Startup Guide, which you can find at startupguide.umd.edu, and it breaks down the startup journey specifically for campus or university developed innovations into 4 big steps. And if you go to startupguide.umd.edu, you'll see this kind of monopoly board type graphic that kind of shows you how to take an innovation from excuse me, from the research stage, thank you, Laura, all the way into a product or service. And in that very first step, feasibility assessment, it looks like this. If you're a faculty or graduate student working on something, the first step is to talk with somebody at our center about it so that we can identify what is the IP, how to protect that IP, what your next steps are. But you'll see within this very first feasibility assessment stage, the second step is connecting with a mentor. And especially, and I think I will have Bo speak to this later as we go through this workshop, but especially as a graduate student or a faculty member who, you've been focused on research and been focused on the science of something, taking that step into how does this become a product or a service can be a little daunting and a little scary and a little outside your comfort zone. And so we try and connect folks with a mentor as early as possible. And we designed this workshop today to talk about both that process as well as what you can be doing to prepare to be a good mentee and to find a mentor that works for you. So with that, we have 3 different panelists today. We're going to lead this discussion. I'll answer questions and kind of have them answer. Each of them represent kind of a different perspective on the funnel, but let me introduce first Laura Neuman is a leader with a record of delivering results in both public and private sectors. She has held public office and was CEO and a company builder in the private sector, ranging from venture-backed startup to established national organizations. She has mentored, consulted, or evaluated hundreds of early stage or startup companies. Her most notable achievement in business was to build the startup Matrix, raising $17 million in venture capital and sold it eventually for $230 million. She's a frequent speaker and guest lecturer on leadership, entrepreneurship, government, and advocating for women. And we're grateful to have Laura here. Laura's kind of speaking from the mentor side of the equation, and Laura is currently an entrepreneur in residence at the University of Maryland. And so we'll talk about how you can actually connect with her after this presentation. Sam Choe is a former vice president of equity research on the Credit Suisse Equity REIT team. He has more than 8 years of experience covering various subsectors with a focus on healthcare and residential REIT. He is currently the CEO of UCleaner, a dental hygiene biomedical device startup that is part of MTech Ventures. He's a big basketball enthusiast and likes to play tennis, travel, and holds a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo. And so Sam is here representing the mentee side of the equation. And again, if you do have any mixed martial arts questions, he'll be able to answer those at the end. And then finally, Bo Chen is an assistant research scientist at the University of Maryland in the Clark School of Engineering. Bo has a PhD in chemical engineering and materials science from Tianjin University and the University of Wisconsin, respectively. And he was the co-inventor of an eco-friendly foam for highly efficient atmospheric water harvesting. He then was the entrepreneurial lead on taking that technology through I-Corps and applying for and receiving a Maryland Innovation MII award for commercialization of that technology. And he will also be representing the mentee side, but also coming from an academic background. And so with those introductions, I've kind of provided a brief background for the three of you. Could you just do real short, your intro of what you're doing right now, and again, why you think I invited you here to kind of this mentor-mentee workshop. We'll start with Laura, and then we'll go Sam, and then Bo.
Well, first of all, Josh, thank you for having me here. It's just I love these experiences. It's always an honor, of course, but in addition to that, it's a lot of fun. So I like hearing from the students and the professors at University of Maryland about the challenges they're encountering. This particular subject, though, is very personal for me. And I'm excited that we're going to talk about it because I never had a mentor. And in fact, the company that I built that was so successful that you shared, Matrix, I actually wasn't the person who sold the company. Someone else was stepped into that role who was a friend of the venture capitalist. And in that situation, I could have used a mentor. There are many times throughout my career that I would have benefited from the guidance to understand how to navigate some of the challenges in building companies. So I do think it's very important and I think it's meaningful. The reason I do this work is because I want information to be available that wasn't available to me. I wasn't on a path or a track that provided opportunity. I had to create my own opportunity. And so I know the benefit of having access to information and guidance and how that can really change your career, particularly on the entrepreneurial path. Now, I'll also add that I often get asked to be a mentor. And I'll go somewhere, I'll give a presentation, and someone will come up to me, or several people will come up to me afterwards and say, I'd like you to be my mentor. And I'm going to tell you today why that's not the way to do it. So it's not just about being inspired by what someone has to offer. It's also about there being a connection that, really makes that person want to invest in you and in your plans. So that would be my first bit of advice is make sure you're finding a way to make that connection. Right now, I'm launching a podcast, The Laura Neuman Show, which will be out soon. We're putting together the website as we speak, and I'm excited to share some of this great experience with everyone. It's been an incredible journey.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. And how about you, Sam?
Well, that's a tough act to follow, but let me try my best. So we are UCleaner, a oral health focused medical device company based out of MTech Ventures. I think for us, our place in this panel is to share how the mentor and mentee relationships happen on the UMD campus. And I also can offer perspective from the mentor side as well, as I had over 11 years of private side experience. So happy to chime in on that as well.
Great. And how about you, Bo?
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Bo. First, thank you for inviting me to join this workshop. And I am as you mentioned, that I am an assistant research scientist at the Department of Mechanical Engineering. And so my supervisor and I developed a technology, we call it atmospheric water harvesting technology, which can pull the water out of the air and generate it into some drinking water for people. So I have a little bit update about my background because we just it is a news like we formed our company last month. So, so
I'll
yeah,
have to add CEO to your,
I
your title slide.
okay. Yeah, so yeah, before that, before I know this all kind of things, I was a pure scientist. So now I can say I am an entrepreneur somehow. And yeah, so currently I'm still dealing with a lot of paperwork with forming a company, and we are preparing some proposals for SBIR programs. Yeah, why I'm here, I think, because my background, I was a pure scientist. So I was, get on this road to the entrepreneur. And I believe a lot of audience here, they have the similar background. They're faculties or they scientists, they're postdoc, they PhDs. Maybe they are looking for some opportunities to become a entrepreneur in the future. So I would like to share my stories from the academia perspective. Yeah.
Let's if you're okay, let's just jump right into that. As a pure scientist, right? Yeah, you're like, oh man, I did my intro, I'm off the hook. Now somebody else can talk, but now I'm gonna go right back to you, Bo. So, as a pure scientist, you came up with this technology. You're like, this is great. You're feeling all like the science. This is awesome. We discovered something. Um, and then you start thinking about commercialization. Like, what was the moment that you realized that, hey, I could use an advisor on the business side of things. I could use some entrepreneurial help. And what made you realize that? And then what did you do?
Okay. That could be a long story, but in short, I started a journey about, I think, the end of 2022. I disclosed our invention to UN Ventures. So a innovation manager took over our case, and he introduced us, say, hey, do you want to join the not national, the regional I-Corps program, and maybe you can find some funding opportunities. At that time, I didn't know anything about the entrepreneurship. I didn't think about like business can be a career path. And I was just thinking like, oh, why not give it a try? I can learn some new things and meet new people. And then I joined the Mid-Atlantic Regional I-Corps, and it's opened the gate to me. Like it's a totally new life, the new things. But at the beginning, I have a lot of issues and troubles because I don't know anything about this. Like they have a lot of lingos, I didn't know what is this OEM, what is it like customer discovery, what is that like the value proposition of your product. I didn't know anything. And I think, oh my God, it's so tough. And at that time, I realized I really need help, like someone that can teach me like a lot of these things, like introduce me into this new world. um, and eventually we made some great instructors from UM Ventures and also some other mentors on the side. Uh, and then Ala at the time, she just let me know that there are a lot of we're doing this workshop online, and I watch a lot of workshop at that time, and I just realized like if I really want to do something about this. I really want to commercialize our innovation to bring it into a real product. I need some help. So so that's one I think I need to find some mentor. At the time, Ala, she just introduced us to some great people, and we got a lot of great help from our mentors or industry instructors. So I appreciate that experience, and I'm so grateful that we have our UM Venture, this whole community around that to support us.
Awesome. Yeah, so just to clarify, Ala is the Director of Startup Support here at Ventures. And yeah, if you are working with our office, we've got a variety of programs designed to connect you with mentors. And I will introduce folks to those kind of at the end of all of this. But it puts a little pressure on us on this workshop to hear that you were watching workshops, and that's what made you realize that you needed mentors, right? Now I'm afraid that all the future Bows are going to be watching this workshop and thinking, oh no, I need a mentor. So we got to do our job today. But Sam, kind of same question for you, as opposed to, Bo, who's coming from a purely academic background. You are coming from a business background, working in the private sector. For someone like yourself, what type of mentorship and advisement are you seeking out in your journey, and why?
Short answer is everything. Because just because I worked in the private sector doesn't mean I know everything. I mean, I have a very strong finance background, and that really has allowed me to understand entrepreneurship better. But with that said, I mean, starting something from scratch requires a lot of skills to be had. So as I've been going through this process, I think what I realize is not necessarily to actively seek out mentors, but really form good relationships where I can ask questions here and there and kind of leverage off the collective wisdom to kind of propel myself forward in the right direction. And kind of taking that approach, I guess our team started through actually my twin brother, who was a UMD PhD, who kind of just started running around Dingman Center, going through all those courses. And I think those good relationships through that experience, through iCore, allowed us to pinpoint, hey, like as we're building momentum, who are the people that are actively interested in our growth? And then I guess mentorship happened over time as we entered MTech Bench. Well, actually before, iCore gives you mentors. And we actually formed good relationship with our iCore mentors who have an active hand in coaching you through customer discovery processes. And these mentors have vast entrepreneurial experiences. So for us to get really good mentors, we have to prove that we want to do this. So I think a good mentee starts with you being proactive, really having the understanding that this is a full-time job, and it requires dedication, the motivation, and the drive to really muck around. And when you convince people that, hey, like these people really care about their problem, I think that's when you start winning people over and allow people to be willing mentors. And I think that's how we got our mentor here at MTech Ventures, because he was our iCore mentor, which allowed us to really get to know the right people, and we still maintain those good relationships.
Awesome. And so again, to clarify for all of our attendees, iCore is a NSF-funded program that's designed to help individuals do customer discovery, which is really just talking to customers to see how your invention or product actually fits their needs and fills whatever pain point they have. It's a fantastic program. The regional program is open to just about anybody. If you are an undergrad, if you are a graduate student, if you're a faculty member. Oh, and I have the link here. I'm going to drop it in the chat. UMD is a hub for the Mid-Atlantic region, but again, a great, real short program. And then the national program, if you go through the regional program, you can qualify for nationals, which is attached to funding as well. But it sounds like just kind of like connecting threads between Sam and Bo. Both of you all, to find your mentors, actually went through some sort of program that kind of helped put you in touch with somebody in repeated interactions, whether that's through iCore or through connecting with Ventures, somewhere where that structure was in place, where you didn't have to necessarily build that relationship from scratch. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. Obviously, you can build a mentoring relationship from scratch, but that is a very helpful way to do it. Sam kind of also mentioned something that I had been advised at one point in time, is that You want to build a bench of people, using a sports analogy here, right? So you've got the team that's on the floor, but then you've got a bench of people who are ready to come in and help, and you're kind of building your bench of mentors. And then as you build out that network, you can identify one or two that maybe you're going to lean on more. And maybe that sounds like what that individual should have done to you, Laura, instead of coming up and saying, will you be my mentor? Like, will you be on my bench? And kind of figuring that out. But kind of taking this question kind of last to Laura, you do a lot of initial meetings with folks as a mentor, people who are seeking mentors. What do you think the biggest value add is right there at the beginning as a mentor? What are the things that they don't even know when they're coming to you that you're like, in just this first interaction, I can help you to do this?
Well, I mean, that's a very broad question. I'm going to narrow it down a little bit and tell me if this is the direction you were thinking. But when I get approached, and first of all, by the way, I want to say welcome to the entrepreneurial ecosystem, Bo. I wanted to say that while you were speaking. I mean, being an entrepreneur, in my opinion, is the greatest thing in the world. So next to being a mom, it is my favorite title. And it doesn't matter how much I've done in my career, CEO, public office. When people ask me for my title for events, and they're going to put a card in front of me. They're like, what's your title? I always put entrepreneur. I do think it is the greatest calling. So welcome to the tribe. As far as being an entrepreneur, I am so glad that you brought up these programs because I think they are so valuable and so meaningful. Not only are you getting really good content, but you're getting access to people who can be helpful to you and guide you. So I love the idea that, first and foremost, University of Maryland has been a leader in this and consistently puts together solid programs to help entrepreneurs. I-Corps is one of the best, in my opinion. And by the way, we, in my company, got MII funding too. University of Maryland has a broad suite of opportunities to get involved and get engaged. And of course, the Dingman, and which I now heard is the Dingman Lamone Center for Entrepreneurship, 100% in favor of that. Rudy Lamone is the one who brought me into the center and got me involved 20 years ago. These resources, like you can't even put a price tag on, they're so valuable. A lot of schools don't have these kinds of resources. A lot of communities don't have these kinds of resources. So I think this is a big deal, and I applaud University of Maryland for doing it. I show up for these programs over and over and over again as someone who has a lot of experience in the private sector, and I'll tell you why. If someone's taken the time to sign up for a program like that, they're willing to say, hey, I want to learn more. I'm interested in doing everything I can to be successful on this path to entrepreneurship. And so for me, as someone who is an exited venture-backed entrepreneur, that says to me, you're serious about this journey because there's so much to learn. The learning curve is steep. And what we say about, and everyone says this, so I'm sure you've heard it, entrepreneurs, when they're starting out, don't know what they don't know. And there's no way to get that base of information and get up that learning curve without access to other entrepreneurs. And these programs are a perfect entree for that. So I'm really glad that we're starting at that point because if the entrepreneur has gone through I-Corps or I've met them through one of those programs, I'm much more inclined to do a follow-up and say, okay, sure, how can I be helpful? Now, in my case, most of these inquiries start with, I have an idea. Almost, actually, so many of them start with, I have an idea and I'm trying to figure out where to go from here. It's that early. And I actually love that because it all obviously starts with an idea, but there's this path you have to go down from turning that idea into a product and that product into a company. And usually that means raising money. And so that's usually the starting point for me. I go into every single conversation, every single one, with a completely open mind. When I show up for that meeting through University of Maryland, through the EIR program, I come into that conversation. Often I don't even read the background intentionally because I don't want to have any preconceived ideas about what that idea is or what you can do with it or how big it can be. And so when I go into it with an open mind, I'm just really taking in what I'm hearing from the person I'm meeting with. So for example, last week I met with a professor, truly one of the most esteemed, accomplished professors at University of Maryland. I was so blown away by his resume. As he started to talk and the conversation unfolded, I realized, like I do in most of these conversations, that while he has a clear subject matter expertise in his area, he has no experience as an entrepreneur, and they're very different things. And so I was able to, like, through asking questions and spending a lot of time listening, understand how to guide him toward the next step. Now, he was feeling a little discouraged in that case because he'd had advice from a lot of different people. And in our conversation, he realized that there was a clear path forward. And he hadn't realized that before our conversation. So nothing replaces experience. And I bring my experience to that conversation. I really focus on what the person needs, and then I try to give them actionable next steps. It's really easy to have conversations all day long. I could talk all day, honestly. But what you need is actionable next steps. And truthfully, most of those actionable next steps so often are, before we meet again, I need you to take all this and put it into a slide deck. Not because I'm a fanatic for PowerPoint or Google Slides, but because I need you to take your idea and put it into a digestible story. And so that story needs to be told, whether you're looking for money or you're looking for a mentor. You need to be able to convey your idea. You need to be able to convey why that idea matters. What is the big problem you're solving? And why should people care? And more importantly, why should they put their phone down? So that always for me is the next step. And then it goes from there into, how do you raise money for this potential venture? So that's often how they start. But, each one is unique, truly. And for me, a lot of fun.
So if I could pin one thing and then build on that. So you often give them the next step of build the slide deck as a format of tell the story, have that story to communicate. And so I think it would be easy to say, if they came to you already in that first meeting with that slide deck prepared or the story told well, you would be thrilled. Is that correct?
Well, that has happened many
Okay.
times. And I go into them with the same open mind. And in fact, it's great if they've already put together a slide deck. I've seen, no, I've never used PowerPoint, to, yes, I've been using this slide deck for the last couple of years. In every case, we have to talk about what works and doesn't work in that slide deck, right? I've been asked this question so many times that I wrote a LinkedIn article about it. I didn't mean to, but I was teaching a class to underrepresented entrepreneurs, and the question came up about what should be the sequence of the slides, or what should be the content. And so I finally put it into an article, which I posted on LinkedIn, and I'll put on my website too, lauraneuman.com. But it basically walks you through what people are looking for. There are consistently certain things that, for example, investors are looking for, or customers are looking for, and you're just not going to reinvent the wheel. You're not going to change their expectations on that. So real quickly, the first one, obviously, it's anywhere from 6 to 12 slides. The first slide is always the landing slide. What's the name of your company? Who are you? How do I reach you? Very simple, very clean. The most important slides are 2, 3, and 4. 2 is, what is the big problem you're solving? And I'm not talking about a product, and I'm not talking about an idea. I'm talking about, what is the global problem that you're solving? That is thinking about it in a way that could really change or shift what we're doing in that particular field. The second is, what would be a potential solution to that makes a lot of sense, that then leads into the next slide, which is number 4, which is what you've created, your product to address that need. If you can get through the first 4 slides of any presentation without the person picking up their phone, or maybe putting their phone down, then you've got them. You'll be able to get through the rest of the presentation. But I promise you, if you don't get to slide 4 without them looking at their phone, they're not coming back. I mean, that's just a fact. They're not coming back. So you're not going to be able to get their attention after that. And I think it's really important to understand that. And I know it sounds super mean to say it that way, but that's just where we are right now.
We can maybe we can copyright that and call it the Neuman phone test and teach it in some of our business school classes. So
I like that.
Besides the slide deck, last question for you, and then I'll bump back to Sam and Bo. What else would it be really good to have someone prepare and bring to that first meeting? What do you wish the mentees had when they first meet with you?
So for me personally, I'm probably different than most people. I'm open to any conversation, because it starts with an idea. I mean, I'll give you a great example. I had a student come to me many months ago, and a relatively young student, I might add. We're not talking about a graduate student. We're talking about someone in the undergraduate program who was not a business student, but had a business idea. And it was just an idea. That student today, I'm formally an advisor to their company. And I will tell you, and I don't say this to brag, but I get asked by almost every single person I meet with to become an advisor to their company in some capacity or another, which it's such an honor. I'm grateful for that and appreciate it. But because there's only so much bandwidth, you can't say yes every time, even though I would love to. In this particular case, I went into this meeting with someone who just had an idea, not a company, not the name of a company. They hadn't even fully fleshed out their product, but it was so clear to me that they had what it takes, that thing that you can't really explain that you need to have to be successful. I call it this. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to make this company successful? And if I can feel that in my interaction, then I believe that they're going to go to the moon and back if they have to. Now, this particular entrepreneur, a couple months later, was accepted into Y Combinator, now has a company, is raising venture capital. And I don't know where this particular phase on their journey is going to go, but what I do know is that they have what it takes to make this happen, whether it's today or a year from now or 5 years from now. They have that commitment and that determination and that vision that you're looking for in any entrepreneur. So I will literally go to the moon and the back for them because I know that they're willing to do whatever they have to do to be successful. So I'll give you a quick example. This particular entrepreneur, very young, as I shared, wants to upgrade legacy systems, computer legacy systems. So I was in public office. I ran one of the largest counties in Maryland, and I know the budget process. And they wanted to go after government work. So I said, okay, there are 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland. Go check out the budget books of each of the jurisdictions in Maryland and figure out who is investing their capital budget money in upgrading their legacy systems. This was my challenge early on in the mentor-mentee relationship. Now, that's a pretty daunting task that I gave them in that interaction. That's not easy to do. First of all, you've got to learn the budget process, figure out who the budget director is, figure out how the budget breaks down operationally versus capital budget. I mean, it was a heavy lift. I said, let me know when you have a few that you want to talk about and we'll get back together. Days later, and I'm not kidding, just days later, he came back to me and he said, well, I can't remember the exact number. There are 8 in the state of Maryland. And I was like, how do you know that so fast? How did you possibly absorb the budgets of 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland and understand that 8 are going to spend money on their capital budget next year? What he did was he wrote a script and he crawled the internet and figured out that he didn't actually have to call any of the budget directors. He crawled the internet to get that budget information and identify the targets to call then to then try and sell his idea. That's next level thinking. That's like a commitment. That's not like, oh, I think I'd like to be an entrepreneur. I have this great idea. That's, I am going to figure this out. I am going to do whatever I have to do to find an answer. I'm going to think creatively how to solve this problem. And I'm going to come back with next steps. You can't turn that person down. How are you going to say no to like, of course you're going to be like, how can I help? What can I do to help you be successful? That's the kind of thing that investors are looking for these days. Not just me, but the venture community. And I want to say this, and I don't want to get off topic with the mentor piece, but you need to hear this right now because venture is changing in real time as we speak. As we sit here and have this conversation, it is changing. 20 years ago, you'd send your business plan in and they get 100, they might look at 10, they might maybe interview 3 and invest in 1. 10 years ago, you'd send it electronically, you'd hope that they'd look at a detailed slide deck and they decide whether they're going to meet with you or not. And through, maybe if you're lucky enough to get a meeting, probably it would end up on Zoom. Ultimately, you might potentially get an investment. That process used to take 6 months. That now takes 6 weeks. It has changed with AI. And if you don't have 20 years ago, you were looking for $100 million. 10 years ago, you were looking for $10 million. Today, if you're looking for more than $5 million, you better be changing the world. Because with AI and the resources that are available, investors know that there's a much faster acceleration track at a much lower cost. And so you need to respond to where they are. And if you can't fit into that current expectation of we're using all the tools that are available to us, specifically around AI, to accelerate our time to market, and we understand what that looks like, you're not even going to get a meeting. So I'm just going to put that out there because I need everyone to understand that the climate is changing in real time. It's also equalizing, right? The playing field is leveling. Because if, like this guy I'm told you about, he was 20 years old, he's 21 now. He's been in front of some of the biggest top VCs in this country because he got into Y Combinator with a good idea. That's the good news. If you've got a great idea and you're willing to work hard, you're going to have more access.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. I think just kind of quickly, I was looking for these hard rules, but it sounds like Laura's answer was like, yeah, I don't have rules as much, but kind of the two things I took away were, be able to tell your story to your mentor right in that first meeting, have that clearly something that you can do, but then also being able to show that this is something you're passionate about and you're the type of person who's not going to, I don't want to say waste time because that sounds too harsh, but somebody who's going to actually go through with this, right? And being able to show, at least for Laura, being able to tell the story and show that you're going to pursue this were the two kind of key takeaways that she was looking for. With Sam, kind of back to something you said earlier, right? You talked about interacting with all these people and building this network. And I think we use this word mentor. It's got a very broad definition. And I think we use it interchangeably with something that often lots of people call an advisor, right? Maybe somebody you sit down with once and talk through and get some advice for them, and you put them in your LinkedIn and you don't ever necessarily call them back or meet with them. Not because you don't want to, but you don't need to. They're not in this like mentor close-on relationship. How do you make the determination between this person's an advisor and I might meet with them once or twice versus this person's a mentor who I'm going to build a long-term relationship with and then kind of have close follow-up with? And yeah, just talk to us a little bit about the difference between those two types of relationships, at least
I mean,
in UCleaner's perspective.
Honestly, Josh, it starts with always an informal kind of context. I would say when you get to know someone, it's all about cultivating. And I wouldn't go to Laura with a presentation deck in the beginning. I would like to get to know her in person. It doesn't have to be a formal setting, but if I see someone like Laura at events, I will kind of go up to her, just kind of talk about progress I've been making. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be wasting a mentor's time. I need to show that I'm growing. And when you show that there's a traction for growth, that catches the eye of mentors to say, hey, these guys are onto something. And then you can move to a more formalized setting saying, hey, Laura, I have an amazing idea. I've been doing all this work. Then naturally your presentation deck, that four slides, maybe you can do it in one slide. And you really show that, hey, I know what I'm doing. Now I just need help getting to the next level, because mentors are all about getting you to the next level. And they're not always necessarily right all the time, but they're mostly right. And the collective advice from the mentors or advisors really give you that perspective and setting the right guidepost to kind of going the right direction. So I would say don't force these relationships. I mean, who really care about you and really want to learn about your story. Like, I mean, a good example is I've been kind of running around the DC startup ecosystem. I've met some local VCs, and I straight up tell them, I'm not ready to fundraise, but this is the progress I've been making.
Brilliant.
And the thing is, it's all about positioning yourself for the future when you're ready. You don't have to say like, my idea will change the world right now if you don't. I think the point is you have to be methodical in how you approach these relationships and be genuine. Like if you don't know, you don't know. That is perfectly okay. That's where the friendship with these really intelligent people will help you get to that next level.
Awesome.
Thank you for saying that. By the way, I'm sorry, Josh, to jump in here. That was brilliant, because if you already have a connect with that person before you need to ask, then they're much more likely to say yes. There are two things. One is that people have a lot less time, so they're less interested in going. They're not interested in going out to lunch. I don't want to go out to lunch. Like I don't have enough time in my day. Yes, I actually do want to go out to lunch, but there's not enough time. And so I want you to show up for the conversation, which is likely on Zoom. And I want you to show up prepared for the conversation. Whether you have a slide deck or you don't, I want you to show up prepared for that conversation. But we still need to make a personal connection, even if we're not going out to lunch like we used to. We need, or being in the office like we used to be. The personal connection is ultimately so important, and I think it is often underestimated by young entrepreneurs. The way you made that personal connection by being like, hey, I'm not ready yet, but I just wanted to connect with you is literally brilliant. That is exactly what you need to do if you want to be able to go back later and say, hey, will you take a look at my slide deck?
Awesome.
It gives you credibility too, I would say, because if you know when you're ready and you show the results that you are ready, then I think it allows mentors to point you in the right direction or give you that connection to the right people too. So
You're also letting them know that you have the maturity and the experience to recognize that their time is valuable, but that you understand that connecting with them at some point is really going to be meaningful for you because of what you want to accomplish, but it's also going to be a good opportunity for them. What you've demonstrated is a real understanding of the process, of the system, of respect for their time. And, you know, it's considered a level of maturity that an investor's looking for when they're investing in a young entrepreneur.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam, and thanks, Laura. I think this is actually a good time to share. These are entrepreneurs in residence. You may see a familiar face up there, but these are individuals who have dedicated their time to meet weekly with students, faculty, staff at the University of Maryland, former entrepreneurs, all of them. There's a website up here, go.umd.edu/EIR2022, where you can go and get their calendars and set up a meeting with Laura, with Doug, or with Harry. And I just wanted to throw this up now because, one, it's a great resource, but kind of with Sam and Laura's answer, right? Part of this mentoring is just, it's network building, right? The way that Sam's going about it, right? He isn't necessarily seeking out mentors right at the beginning, but he's building these contacts. So if there is an opportunity in the future, or when that opportunity comes up, he'll already have that relationship. And we actually have a faculty member who was connected with Harry Geller here on the screen as her entrepreneur in residence, as her advisor. And she was a research scientist and had a product that was being used in a skincare product. And again, research scientist, but like research scientist in solving a disease, had to develop a chemical, like skincare was not her thing, right? But Harry was like, I actually know an entrepreneur who worked in this field and who was looking for a new project and was able to connect the two of them. And she became her CEO, and they have founded a successful company. They continue to generate revenue. They were featured in the Maryland, the UMD magazine, the spring copy of the magazine. Anyway, it's part of that, just like expanding your network. This isn't somebody who the research scientist would have known from the beginning, but it's somebody her mentor knew who was then able to connect her. And I think that's one of the most valuable things about these mentoring relationships. Kind of building on that, Bo, in the academic world, we use the term mentor and advisor a lot, right? Like going through your academic journey, you also have mentors and advisors. Are there any big differences in kind of the academic mentoring and advising that takes place compared to the mentoring and advising you sought out as an entrepreneur? And are there things that researchers should kind of be aware of as they kind of make that jump into entrepreneurial advising?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, if you are a master or a PhD student or even postdoc, you probably have your supervisor or your professor who will supervise you along the academia, academic world. Um, so to me, so I stay in the academia for for almost my whole career in the past. So I have several mentors in that area. And recently, in the past few years, I got some mentors from industry or some some business people. They are really different. So for the academic mentors, I think their responsibility is to lead you to uh, deep deep seek about the science or fundamental research. Like they encourage you to think about what is the question, what is the new things in this academia or in your research field. They are helping you to develop some ideas that or some research things that people don't know before, like really new things in science or like really new things like in technology. So in that way, that it is new to the mentor as well. So you really need the mentor will help you to think about it, but you are the person who need to solve this problem. You don't really have an answer. So I think this is the academic mentor. And along the road, they want you to work maybe somehow in the academia or to become a professor. They lead you in this professional path. And for the industry mentor, that's very different. So I think an industry mentor is like someone who can coaches you to commercialize your idea, innovation into real product. It's more practical. It's like there are some like really successful stories in the world, and you can always learn something from their stories. Or when you have a problem, like you don't know how to design your product or you don't know where to find help, your mentors always to be there as I would say lighthouse to show your directions. Like they will let you know like what is the next step. Like what is like Laura mentioned, like what is the actionable next step. You really need to know what is your goal. You just trace for your goal. Um, and I would say the mentor, an industry mentor, they have a lot of experience outside, in the industry, and they have their like personal connection. They have resources they can introduce to you. They know some maybe like your potential partners, your potential customers, your like distribution channels, people. They're all resources they can they can help you to find out.
Awesome. Thank you. I think, yeah, that was a great illustration, I think, and kind of me listening and taking from it. Sounds like with academic mentors, they're almost there as thought partners, and you are doing a lot of the talking. Whereas with industry, they're almost there as they're helping you solve the problem, and they're doing a lot of the talking as they provide those answers. Obviously, there's going to be give and take, and depending on how far you are in that relationship. But I like that illustration of the differences. We are getting towards the hour. The last question I want all of you to think of is there a single piece or kind of a broad piece of advice that you would want to share with the audience? I'm gonna pin that question and have you sit on it for a second and open up to the audience. Is there anybody who has a question for one or all of our panelists? Feel free to throw that into the chat and we'll try and get your questions answered. But maybe while we do that, let's start with Laura first. Do you have a broad piece of advice, mentors, mentees, here's what I want to share. Here's what I want people to take away.
Well, I will say a couple things. One is I think it's really important to have mentors in your career, even though I've personally never had one. And I say that, I know it's a pretty big statement to make. I've never had a mentor personally. I have tried, but I didn't have a traditional path to entrepreneurship. For me, entrepreneurship was about creating opportunity for myself. And for those of you who don't know, my background is a little unusual. I have an MBA without finishing high school or college. I had a very challenging start in life. And I just couldn't get the companies to hire me that I wanted to work for. So I said, okay, well, I'll just prove to you that I'm a good investment. And that's why I became an entrepreneur. And as I started to have some success with that, I realized there was so much that I didn't know. And there weren't a lot of women who were building tech companies. So it was difficult to find entrepreneurs. But I will say that I had a lot of advisors. And when you can't have someone be a mentor, you can certainly use them still as an advisor. I was never afraid to ask. So when I needed to raise venture capital the first time, I went to a seminar called How to Raise Venture Capital. And it really was that simple. And after the seminar, it was at a different university. I went up to both of the presenters and I said, hey, I'd love to present my business plan to you and get your thoughts on it. Truthfully, I hadn't written the business plan yet, but I had an idea. So I didn't expect them to say yes, and they did. They both said yes. So I went and met with each of those investors. One was an angel investor and one was an early stage venture investor. Of course, I wrote the business plan before I got there, but this is my point though, is that that's an advisor, that's not a mentor. And so I got a lot out of those interactions. In fact, they were ongoing conversations. I learned so much from those two gentlemen that I would have never been able to be an entrepreneur without that kind of access. That's not a mentor, that's an advisor. And I'm grateful that they were willing to take the time to meet with me and to understand what I was trying to do and to guide me. A mentor is a much more personal relationship. It's on an ongoing basis, and there's a real connection there. And of course, I'm speaking outside of academia because I know it's probably a different set of roles or expectations. In the private sector, in business, that relationship is usually an ongoing one, and it's one that's based on a personal interest in the professional development of that mentee. So don't turn away from those opportunities to get advice or be advised, even if they aren't long-term relationships. There's information all around us. And I was the person at the time sitting at my desk, reading magazines and articles and journals about business and about entrepreneurship and about technology. That's all on the internet now. So access that information and then augment that information with all of the folks around you who have good advice to share.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. There's a question in the chat from Taj. I'm actually going to answer this one. It's specifically about being an international student. Taj, we're working on a workshop about the visa process and working for a startup as an international student. But I'm going to have you, if you could reach out to me, we can share some of that information with you because it's kind of not related to mentoring. But I'm dropping my email here for you to reach out, and I can chat with you about that. There are pathways. It does require working through kind of the visa process. Now, no, if any of you have any advice on that, but I'll go, Sam, real quick with your advice for mentors and mentoring, something you'd want people to leave with today.
Well, I guess long story short, don't force it. I mean, honestly, if you force it, you're not going to be genuine. You're going to be odd. When you go to these networking opportunities, I think you want to come out natural and enthusiastic, and really you have to exude that you care about solving that problem. So I would say if you are an introvert, I'm not, I'm extroverted, but I would say you should take a friend to be a wingman, because I found that having a buddy to go to these startup ecosystem events allows you to be comfortable in situations. So it allows you to strike up conversations, and you get to meet a lot of people through that. And you're going to meet peers who are kind of going along in their own entrepreneurial journey. You can learn from that. That's an advisor, or that's a mentor, who knows. You can meet investors, or you can meet like people who can be strategic partners for you. You just don't know. But you do have to put yourself out there. But I think if you go out there and try to do too much, then it comes across as not natural. And that puts you in a very, very negative position. So I would say just kind of ease yourself into it. And over time, you'll build your bench one by one. And once you kind of get that network, you'll be in a much better position.
Awesome. And then Bo, what would you share as your advice for the group?
Yeah, I mean, Laura and Sam shares a lot of advices so far, but I want to add something else. Like, first, at the beginning, I mean, you really need to believe in what you are doing. You have a faith that you have a great idea, and you have a faith that you can overcome all these kind of difficulties. I mean, this is not an easy journey. And other than that, just leverage all the resources around here. Like, I mean, the Ventures, and they have a lot of great people. They can, if you don't know what to do next, just reach out to Josh and Ala, and they will direct you to the right person. And other than that, I encourage you to join the regional and the national I-Core program, where you can meet a lot of mentors and some new people, or some like passionate new CEOs, or new, someone who have the same dream as you, and you can share the story, and you can introduce each other to some other mentors. Um, And at last, if you get a chance, I would encourage you to join some trade shows or like the conference that you can meet some other people or some other companies. They may manufacturing the same product. They may providing the say a similar service, and you may have some really good ideas together, maybe work together, or like they may introduce you some amazing people to be your mentor in the future.
Awesome. Thanks, Bo. We've got actually
Josh,
two.
oh, go ahead. I was going to add a quick thought. I wanted to follow up on what Sam and Bo said. First of all, mentorship, there's real burnout is real. Like the same people get asked over and over again, so just be aware of that. But I love the idea of showing up at an event with a friend. And I'll tell you why, because most people are introverts. Like the people on stage that you see all the time, they're introverts. They just show up for the moment, and showing up is so important. And I think if you show up consistently and take whatever support you need to be able to do that, it makes all the difference in the world. And you would be shocked how easy it is when you walk up to someone and just say hello, how friendly they'll be. Everyone gets nervous and everyone feels uncomfortable in those situations. And it doesn't matter how long you've been in your career, it's still true. But just walk up to someone and introduce yourself, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, hey, how's it going? And they'll be friendly.
Awesome. So I was going to say we have two questions that have come through. The first one, I'll go to Bo because this one's a quick one. How long did it take from iCore to company formation? When did you, I think you did iCore in 22?
No, so I did it in the original I-Core in early 2023, and the
Okay.
next one in, I think, in the middle of 2023. So I just formed my company last month, but for about how long it takes, I mean, it doesn't take too long to register a company, but it really depends on how ready you are. Like you make yourself comfortable, you are ready to move to the next step, then that's the time point. So as long as you finish the I-Core program, I would say you're gonna get it. You can register your company like right away, like in a month, but it really depends on you. Like for me, in my case, I wait for about 1 year just because I want to develop more like technology, understand more about our technology. I spend a lot of time in my lab to further develop the innovation. So and we work on some like project proposals. So it takes some times, but now I'm ready and I just formed a company.
Awesome. Yeah, there's no rule, Taj. I do want to say, like Bo says, you can form a company very quickly. But we have seen most of our products that come through iCore learn some things that they need to take back and use it to change the innovation or shape the idea. And there is a gap between when they finish iCore and they start a company, sometimes of a couple years as they go through MII and other type programs. So also don't feel bad if you're not ready right after finishing iCore. I know, Laura, you have a hard stop, but I thought you might actually be the best one for this question. So answer as best as you can in the minute that we have left. If not, Katie, I'm going to encourage you to go and sign up for an EIR meeting with Laura, and you can bring this question to her. But Katie says, I have found that people I want to be my mentor, and I have a specific ask, and I take the suggestions that are given, but it's been a struggle to keep the cadence of meetings going. Any advice for fostering longevity in a mentoring relationship?
Well, I don't know the specific circumstances, and I am happy to do an EIR meeting with you, but I would start with asking their advice on something. I mean, you can't force that relationship to happen. And I think it comes down to whether or not that person feels connected with what you're doing and interested in your long-term success. Just because it's not a mentor relationship doesn't mean it's not a valuable relationship. Because truthfully, the same people get asked a lot, and it's hard to find enough time to make it happen. But that doesn't mean it's not a valuable interaction. So I wouldn't get too hung up on whether or not you've built a long-term sustainable relationship as much as you've gotten something out of that and you still are connected. LinkedIn is such a valuable tool for remaining connected.
And I'll just add my 2 cents. I think follow up is a really important thing. You can have that initial meeting, even with Sam, just meeting with these VC folks, and just every couple of months sending a follow up. This is where we're at now. This is where we're at now. This is what's happened. Yesterday, this has happened, right? And you don't want to pester, but if that follow up is there, then you are naturally building that cadence. Even if there's just crickets from the other side, whenever you come out with an ask, it feels like it's been ongoing. Like everybody's busy, like Laura said, and some of these people are being approached multiple times. But by following up, you can make it a long-term relationship, even if it feels a little one-sided at some points in time. Okay, we're at 1 o'clock. I just wanted to be respectful of our panelists' time, but also thank you all for sharing your perspective, your stories, your advice. I think this was really great. I think there's a lot to learn from your personal experiences. For the audience, like I said, the website here, go.umd.edu/EIR 2022. These folks are available to meet with you. You can just go up and sign up for their calendars. We've also got site miners to work with people who are going through the MII program. If you're interested in that, come talk to us at the UM Ventures office. But thanks for being here and good luck on your entrepreneurial journeys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.